Everybody wants to know where the industry is headed. I'm here to share with you that actually, it really has nothing at all to do with the political situation in the country. It has absolutely nothing to do with the infrastructure. It has nothing to do with the technology disruption that occurs globally. And it actually has nothing to do with the price and availability of land. Where the industry is really headed towards is basically everything is all about this one simple, it's called human health. So more specifically, actually your employee health. And I'll explain later why the employees are very critical. Now, the employee health is actually for both the physical aspects, as well as the mental, and as well as the social. Now, these are the same workers that sit in your desks and your tenants as well, and they're 9 to 5 in the Philippines. I know it's 8 to 6. So the definition of health by the World Health Organization is basically what I mentioned. It is both physical, mental, and social health. So why are we even exploring this in a real estate summit like this? At the end of the day, how do we link real estate to the future of real estate? How do we link health to the future of real estate? Well, let's think about from the mind of a multinational. I know Mr. Chris Fossick just left. This chart isn't meant to be seen. But for those who do site analysis and site selection, on the y-axis, that's the cities, and they're selecting between the different characteristics of the industry. I know Lazantan, this seems very familiar to you. Now, the truth is, let me summarize this for you. 90% of all costs of any corporation is really based on staff-related. 9% real estate, 1% utilities, and maybe a little bit higher in the Philippines. At the end of the day, as much as I'd like to feel very special that I'm top of mind as a developer, I'm far from it. And this chart explains it all. So of course, we have to look at some studies on why human health or employee health is so important. There's a survey that actually came out that was studied with a Fortune 100 company, 12,000 employees over a 2-year period, and these are some of the results. Employees eat healthy, so I saw the lunch that was available. Who had dessert? Okay, feel guilty now. It gets worse. Same study, those who eat 5 more servings of fruit and vegetables 4 times a week were more likely to be more productive. Absenteeism basically is people who don't show up to work because they feel ill and sick. And there's actually something else that's creeping up, it's called presenteeism. Basically people who show up to work but they're highly non-productive. That's usually on a Friday morning because of a very bad happy hour Thursdays. Okay? So, but I know all of you here are really here for the money. I'm not going to lie to you. You guys are all here because you want to learn where the next city is to invest, blah, blah, blah. Got it. Okay. So wouldn't it be great if we found the link between workplace health and the health of the bottom line? I think all of us would want to find a study that shows the link between the workplace health to the bottom line. Actually, there was a paper exactly that. It's called The Link Between Workforce Health and the Health of the Bottom Line. It's actually produced. And the results of this survey, actually it's a study, academic study, is simple. So what they took was this university and a bunch of medical students took an index of companies they felt that was healthy based on wellness programs they do in the office and compared it to the S&P 500 index. And over this many years, they actually realized that it performed 5.2 percentage points better than their peers. So this is true proof that if you have a healthy, productive workforce, your bottom line will be much better. But I'm really here more concerned about the health, of course, of the real cause. So these are some of the global trends. In 2012, there were 56 million people, the mortality rate of 56 million people. Now, of those 56 million people, 68% were attributable to something called NCDs. So NCDs is basically non-communicable diseases. NCDs are basically things you cannot transfer from person to person. So NCDs are essentially because of this. They are this. Of those NCDs, these are the top 4 killers. Now, what's the cause and effect of all this? Well, the cause is this. And for some of you in the room, this looks like a really good weekend. Okay? I have to admit, when I first moved to this country, I think this was my everyday until I actually worked. So what does this lead to? So actually, these are the 4 main causes of those NCDs. Okay, so it's very simple. I'm sure all of you know this. There's actually an organization called the World Economic Forum, and they do this risk report. And they look at all the different types of risk: geopolitical, social, technological, economic. And they link it. The thicker the line, the more prominent this risk is to another. And so they're very smart. And they basically said that in the next 2 decades, 21.3 trillion of economic loss of developing countries is going to happen because of one thing, of NCDs. NCDs actually, for the World Economic Forum, is the biggest risk, bigger than these 4 combined. Okay, and this thing will continue growing as, of course, we urbanize even more. So let's talk about the Philippines. So we all know who Manny Pacquiao is. We all wish we had his abs. I definitely don't. So the statistics for this, actually in the Philippines, that 61% of our mortality rate is based on NCDs. Now let's focus more on why this is very important for this real estate summit. We all know what this looks like. That is actually ACS's BPO center. Okay. So there was actually a study done before, and don't you all wish there was a study done on that type of work? I mean, I wish I would, and actually there is, again. Okay. So the results of this study is very simple. Once again, I think they were describing me as I was reading this. I'm not the healthiest person, but I surely lived through this. Another thing, of course, we know what stress does to the work. And of course, because of the shift work, them working late at night, this tends to happen. And finally, in terms of productivity, their success is much lower for those that work in the daytime. Now, why is the focus on office so important? I mean, this statistic is very common. Now, if you can guess how much time we all spend in an office, and Lars excluded, because I think Lars, you're always on the road, but generally, our employees are 1/3 of their total lives are at work. 1/3, basically, for a 75-year-old person, if they live, is 25 years. And I did some quick calculations. It's about 219,000 hours of meetings. And actually, if you had 8-hour conferences, you could attend 27,000 of these today. That's basically what 1/3 of your life means. So everyone's familiar with this. Okay, it's a desk. Now I want to talk about something a little odd. It's STDs. You filthy minds are thinking something else. I'm talking about how much do you stand and how much do you talk to other people, your colleagues, and how much water do you drink? Now essentially, we all sit in a desk like this, but how do you stand? How much social connections do you have with your employees? And then how much water do you drink a day? Also, how much sunlight do you get? How good is the air that you breathe? That sort of thing. So, this is actually, what does it look like? That's a jail. So this is actually a joke. What's the difference between a jail cell and a cubicle? Richard? No? Okay. In one of those things, your boss wakes you up. Ba-dum-bum, that's a jail. Okay. So this is basically the same organization. So if you have this issue, basically you either go to a physical therapist or you go to the gym, or you would call a doctor if you have these issues, right? But I'm actually suggesting you call this guy. Now I know Carmi Palafox is there. Buds, who's this guy? Jojo Tolentino is the architect for IDEA. He's actually one of our local architects. Or you could call this guy. So this guy's from Gensler. He's our architect as well. He's from Chicago. So why am I saying call an architect? Because if you're spending that much time in an office, a third of your life, you better hope it's designed well. So I'm gonna give you guys a little secret sauce. It's called the Office Recipe Book. Okay, and this is steeped in research. So in this Office Recipe Book is basically how you should develop a building for the future. Okay, no longer can we build a building just looking inward. So the first ingredient of this recipe book is quite simple. How good is the air in your thing, in your office unit? Now actually, they did another study in that people who have basically better air have 11% gains in productivity. Now my next question is, the next ingredient for a nice office building is, well, let me tell you. So for that, as a development, we highly suggest that you do these following. Okay. So the next thing, of course, is, I'm sure some of you have office units that look like this. Okay. So daylighting and lighting. So another study came out, and this is the result. So this is what we suggest. Invest in the facade, of course, lighting controls. Lighting systems are now much more technologically advanced. They actually also measure temperature and humidity. They're very different from how we see it now. Now task light, now place light is basically just have your work lit up. Now the next ingredient, of course, is, now some of you also may have a view like this, and something called biophilia. It's defined as the love of life. But in real estate, it's coming to be the term for plants, okay? Views. So people with better views, this is the result. Okay, this all makes common sense for most of us in this room, but to put it in scientific kind of puts it in a different place. So for this, of course, add plants and add art, and if Mr. Rufino is here, his green rooftop. Now, I want to give you guys a secret ingredient, though, because you guys are all in this conference. You paid good money for this conference. The secret ingredient to how you can have a healthy, productive workforce is basically, I am now selling to you. I know, it's cheap, but that's the price of staying on the stand. Now, I won't cheat that much. So this is actually a building we just built with those two same architects. This is on 32nd and between 9th and 11th. This is our lobby. There's the lights. These are the views. And that's the crown. I know, very cheap. Now, of course, we actually are going to produce this publication. Everything I'm discussing today will be available quite soon. I will send it to you. Just email me if you want to be added to the newsletter, everything we discussed. Now, you'll notice here the latest office diet. It's not you, it's me, it's your office. That's very true. But let's get back to the point. It's essentially, good design is essential. It's all about design thinking. So, but we have a bigger dream, actually. Some of us people in this real estate have a bigger dream to change everything here. So, when you guys when you buy your food, what's the first thing you do? You look at the nutritional. You look for the calories, the fat, the sodium, sugar. Okay. How great would it be if we can start putting this towards real estate? So actually, the consumer market's already quite good. They've done this already. So if you look at your Diet Cokes, your Cokes, and whatever products, they have 200,000 products. They measured it already. How awesome would it be if we could do the same thing for real estate? So that same building I showed you is One World Place. How about if you look at a building and you see all these elements in there: air, lighting. These 8 elements actually already exist in a standard. I know you're very familiar with LEED and Verde. There's actually another building standard that's only taking off right now in Asia, where NCDs are rising the fastest. It's called the WELL Building Standard. And I highly suggest you look at their website and see how you, if you're a developer in this room, can incorporate. Okay, the WELL Building Standard is something that's taking off. So I'm going to leave you a couple of things, actually a few things before I go. And in this conference, I want you to take something that you can do now. You know, and I don't want you to do this 5 years from now or tomorrow. Do it now. I want you to stand up a little more. Stand. Actually, the healthiest way to work, they say, is 45 minutes standing, 15 minutes sitting. and you do it again the next hour. Okay? Also want you to drink some water. Okay? There's tons of water there, just drink it. It's good for you. I think 2 liters is what you need as a minimum. And of course, finally, as you connect the network, so that the mental part of what health and well-being means is quite important. So I highly suggest this is basically a networking conference that you guys mingle. And because at the end of the day, you want to be as productive as possible for your companies, and hopefully we can all do that and make a difference. Thank you.